Hey guys, it's Vandy. As well by Recovery Vanguard Deck Professor. If you guys enjoyed, don't like, comment, subscribe, and let's start. This time we're covering DZ set 7 for Dark States, and that is Sephirogila. So it's another Sephirogila deck, this time focusing more on the soul charging aspect because Dark States is the main deck we're using here. So let's start, shall we, and see what we got. First we'll take the average energy generator. It's our ride deck crest. You remember ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto ride deck. When you would ride, put this card into your crest zone. If you want second energy charge 3, continuous may have energy on all beginning of your ride phase, energy charge 3, and act once per turn, energy by 7, draw a card. All pretty solid. You get a free 3 energy every turn. On top of that, if you win second, you get an extra 3, and not to mention the fact that you can energy boss 7 once you have that to draw a card. And because of Sephirogila's ability to constantly energy charge and get you a big amount of energy in one go, you can definitely use that 7 to draw a card after already using your other skills to make markers, rear guards, etc. Moving on to our starter, we have Sephirogila. Grades will boost 5k shield, 6k base, continues Vanguard Circle. It gets +1 grade and 2000 power for each different blessing card either in your soul or drop zone that was in the ride deck originally, active on players' turns. Honestly, I really love this effect because it differs from Griffo Seed in the sense that now you can actually be aggressive with your units. Now every single time you put a blessing card into your soul, your Vanguard's grade increases, so you can start making markers before either side actually gets to grade 3, so when you do get to grade 3, you're already perfectly set up with your numbers on board. Only that, he has a second skill, where Auto Vanguard. At the beginning of your main phase, choose up to 1 blessing card from your ride deck, put it to soul just like OG Griffo Seed, except with blessing cards instead of calamity cards, meaning again you do not have to discard to quote-unquote ride from ride deck, and perform one of the following according to this Vanguard's grade. If it's a grade 1, choose up to 1 energy generator from your ride deck, put into your crest zone, and if you do and you win second, you energy charge 3, which is pretty cool because since this deck doesn't technically ride till you get to Sephirogila, that means you wouldn't be able to use your energy generator until you got to grade 10, aka 3 turns later. But now, thanks to Sephiroseed's ability, you can get your energy generator just like when everyone else would get their energy generator, and on top of that, you also get a free 3 energy if you did end up going second, so essentially your energy generator still procs like it normally would. And then if you're a grade 3, because we did skip the grade 2 ability because technically it didn't need it, though if they did give it a grade 2 ability, I feel like it would just be draw cards, since the only thing Sephiroseed's missing from making it a normal starter would just be draw card. But anyway, search your deck or hand for up to 1 Dragon Tree of Advent Sephirogila, ride it as stand. If you search your deck, you shuffle it, and then if you road, choose one of your rear guard circles without a Dragon Tree marker on it and put a Dragon Tree marker on that circle. So cool, you get a superior ride from your deck or your hand. The downside is the Dark States version, which means there's a good chance you might end up soul charging it and or damage checking it before you do that, so 50-50. But being able to also get a free marker on your board is great as well. The only downside to this card really is the fact that unlike OG Griffo Seed, who got 2 markers anywhere on any unit circles, Sephirogila can only get markers on unit circles that don't already have a marker, and it only gets 1. But considering the fact that Sephirogila can make markers on its own and also put it on circles that already have markers on it, and it already does so much to balance itself out with the rest of like just the world of Vanguard, I do like having Sephirogila as my starter, and obviously you need it if you're going to play Sephirogila. Then we have the rest of the ride deck. So we have our 3 normal orders: A New Beginning, Auspicious Transmogrification, and Coming of Origin. They are grade 1, 2, and 3 normal orders respectively. You do not need them in the main deck because their main deck skill is Counter Boss 1, choose up to 1 blessing card from your deck, or really put it to hand and shuffle that deck. Again, you don't need to have them in the main deck because at that point you're only paying 1 CB to get 1 deck thin, and this deck, quote unquote, deck thin's enough with all the soul charging, but you're also going to be doing a lot of triple driving, meaning you could deck yourself out a lot quicker. So you're just fine with having these cards in the ride deck because they already do enough being blessing cards, meaning they can trigger off Sephirogila. Something else I really like about these blessing cards, like how they're kind of the opposite of their calamity versions, like A New Beginning versus the beginning of the end, Auspicious Transmogrification versus Manicious, I don't remember what the other word for it was, and then Coming of Origin versus Looming Demise. So I like how it also focuses on nature as well, compared to before where like it kind of focused on space transformation kind of. Then we have our Overtrigger, Hades Dragon Deity of Resentment Galmagaheld. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger, Overtrigger in your deck. When removed as a trigger, move that card to draw a card, choose one mutants, it gets +1 for the turn. If it a draw check, activate its adjust effect which you get during your turn. All your Vanguards get 10,000 power and +1 critical to the end of this fight. So that is a permanent ability that stays on the Vanguard circle, meaning the second you sack this, you automatically are going to have a Vanguard that has most likely triple drive with Sephirogila, and then 10k power extra and 1 critical every single turn, which forces your opponent to guard pretty much every single attack on the Vanguard, because if they don't, they're probably dying on the spot. I really love Galmagaheld because it applies constant pressure throughout the game once you sack it offensively. You can run Volnut for more consistent multi-attacking, you can run Asfaria for recycling, you could run the Dark Overtrigger for hitting calling, or even the Yellow Overtrigger for, you know, hand card increase and rear guard destruction, but I much rather prefer Galmagaheld because, like I said earlier, once you sack it, it's pretty much staying the rest of the game, and it's really hard to beat a deck once Galmagaheld is active, because I tell you from experience from a match I literally just played like 20 minutes before this, my opponent sacked Galmagaheld on grade 2 turn, and I had to survive 2 straight up like grade 3 turns of them having Galmagaheld. I won because I was really smart with guarding, but it's really hard to do it when it's constantly crit pressure and triple drive shoved down your throat. So one of Gamaga held. That takes us over to our normal triggers. Please be smart. If you're going to run a front trigger, please run the Diablos Girls Natalia. She is a 15k shield, 4k base, and she has the ability to be a 20k shield once the opponent hits grade 3 specifically. The reason why I don't run Natalia is because I don't like to mix archetypes, and because she is a Diablos card, I don't want to put her into a deck that isn't a Diablos deck. Anyways, Huckle Hustle is my front here, so grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. It's a standard front, it just gives 10k to front row. Since this deck does not require you to basically stall out until you get your over trigger active, you can be as aggressive as you want. So I choose to make 3 fronts here to add to that offensive pressure. Again, if you are going to run fronts with that mentality, I do recommend you run Natalia to at least have extra guard power, since the front trigger will still give plus 10k to front row anyways. Then we have a total of 8 crit, 4 copies of Lively Breath Dragon, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. This can be any crit you want. I choose to make it Lively Breath because Sephirogila is a dragon to some extent, and this is a dragon, so there you go. So 4 crit from that, and then 4 crit in Stem Deviate Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rearguard, and then by the boosted, shove it to soul, choose unit, and give it 2k for the turn. This can be any crit you want. I just choose to make it Stem Deviate because it does go to soul. I mean, it is helpful, but this deck doesn't really need it to go to soul, so if you want to make this a vanilla crit, you're more than welcome to, but there are times where you might need the extra soul in the early game, so there you go, 8 crit for offensive pressure. And then we have 4 heals in Kipper Companion, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. You can make this any heal you want. I chose to make it this deck's heal because this deck was copied from the Dark States version of Sephirogila Vartex, and Sephirogila Vartex's heal was specifically stolen from Drajuled because the whole point of Sephirogila in the anime was it was copying the nation that it was battling, and then they would mostly copy all the triggers too, and because it was copied from Michiru's deck, whose heal was Caper Companion, that Caper Companion is now this deck heal. It was a very convoluted process, but point is, 4 heals, 8 crit for offensive pressure, and 3 fronts for added offensive pressure. That takes us over to our last grade 0 card in the deck, 4 copies of Corrosive Smoke Signal. This Blitz order is very fun to use. You can only play it if your Vanguard's a Hydragrum. Don't worry, your Vanguard will either only be Sephirocide or Sephirogila. Either way, they're both Hydragums. Choose one of your rearguard circles without a marker on it and put a Draco Tree marker on that circle. Choose one of your units that's being attacked and it gets plus 10 as a power for the battle. And if your Vanguard's a Sephirogila, it gets 20k instead of 10k. So all around pretty solid because Sephirogila can actually count as Sephirogila, so once you do get to Seph, you'll be able to add 20,000 instead of 10. But while you're on Sephirocide, the Vanguard's going to be adding plus 10, so it's a 10k shield, and on top of that, it's getting you an extra marker on your board for literally no cost at all, meaning you can spend your CB and soul when you're going to play your Dragon Tree makers later on other resources rather than just using them to make markers because Corrosive Smoke Signal is doing it for you. And Corrosive Smoke Signal, again, is just a good order to have. It gets you good numbers and it also gets you a free marker on board, and if you open with 2 of these, well, screw your opponent because you're probably getting triple drive in your first grade 3 turn, and if you're going first, screw your opponent even more. So 4 of Corrosive Smoke Signals is a really good blitz order for both defensive pressure but also setting up for offensive pressure. That takes us over to our grade 1s. We run 3 copies of Spooky Chirpy, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto rearguard circle. When it boosts, if this unit's on a rearguard circle with a Draco Tree marker on it, you can soul charge 1 and it'll get 5,000 power for the battle. So downside to this, it's a mandatory soul charge 1, so that could deck you out. Upside to this, as long as it's on a marker, which is very easy to do, it'll be at 13k, followed by its own skill, which make it an 18k, and because it soul charges, it helps support a very specific grade 1 we're going to go over in a minute. So it's a nice card for increasing the soul for free and comboing off with other cards in the deck, and again, it only needs to be on a marker. The unit that's boosting doesn't have to be on a marker. So if, say, for example, you open with Demon Sherider and Spooky Chirpy, you can take a damage and then go to your grade 1 or grade 2 turn with the Sephirocide, and then play Demon Sherider, make a marker specifically behind the Demon Sherider, call Spooky Chirpy to that marker, and then boost for a 13k booster, which is pretty great. And again, it's just a nice grade 1 to have for soul charging, so 3 of. Also do that play that I just mentioned because I did something very similar to that play with, I think it was against Artissa, but I say similar because I messed up the play and I put the marker on Sherider circle instead of Spooky Chirpy circle. So yeah, put it behind the unit. That takes us over to 4 copies of the grade 1 that combos with Spooky Chirpy, and that is Brainwash Swirler. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto place on the rear guard circle, soul charge 1. Okay, very simplistic. You just get a free soul charge. Then auto rear guard when a card is put into your soul by soul charging specifically, not by moving it to soul. So sorry, Stem Deviate, your ability won't proc here. But when a card is put into your soul by soul charging, if your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard, it gets 5,000 power for every single card sent to soul. So if you soul charge 2 cards at once, it gets plus 10k. If you soul charge 3 cards at once, it gets plus 15k. Or if you just soul charge 1 card, it gets plus 5k, etc., etc. So again, being able to free soul charge is great. You can play it before you get to your grade 10 turn with Sephirogila, but I'd rather play it on the turn that I get to Sephirogila just so I can start getting the numbers. But again, if you want to play it early just to get an early game rush, you can. But being able to get 5k every single time you soul charge is great, because it's going to automatically bring yourself to 13 the second you place it. But then you combo with something like Spooky Chirpy, who maybe boost your other rear guards. You can soul charge and get numbers. The best place to do like Spooky Chirpy behind the Vanguard circle at the bare minimum, so it's always going to be an 18k boosting an already 38k Vanguard. That's a 56k swing right there. But that makes the brainwashes on the left and right columns +5, or one of those brainwashes could also be a Spooky Chirpy, so one of your brainwashes is constantly getting +10. Plus the marker it's probably on, so it's a 23k booster every single turn. All around, I like Brainwash Swirler a lot. It's really good for numbers, it gets you soul, and it powers up so much from just any form of soul charging, and granted only one other card in this deck actually soul charges, but that card combos really well with Brainwash for boosting numbers, so full route. That takes us over to Dragon Tree Wretched Demon Sherider. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto and placed on rear guard circle. Counterblast 1 to choose any one of your rear guard circles without a Dragon Tree marker on it and put a Dragon Tree marker on that circle. So again, if you're going to do that combo I said earlier, play Sherider, pay a CB, specifically put that marker behind Sherider, and then call Spooky Chirpy to said marker, and then boost it. So at least for that turn, whether you're at grade 3 or you're still at grade 0, or technically grade 2, Spooky Chirpy is going to be at least at 13k with a free soul charge. And then act once per turn rear guard, Soul Blast 2 if your Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, and choose a grade 1 less from your soul, call it to rear guard circle in the same column as it. Being able to just Soul Blast any 2 cards, and again, because you're doing at least a decent amount of soul charging with Brainwash Swirler and Spooky Chirpy, and worst case scenario, you have your blessing cards that Sephirogila sent to your soul, you can just get rid of those cards and then call out anything that you've soul charged throughout the game that may be useful to you. The only downside is it specifically does have to be grade 1 or less, but hey, it gets you Spooky Chirpy, it gets you a Brainwash Swirler, hell, it can get you another copy of itself, so you want to just make more markers, you can feel free to do so. So 4 copies of Demon Sherider. Good for getting like markers on board, whether it combos with itself or it's just doing a simple 1 marker place, and it's good for getting more rear guards on board, whether your opponent just nuked it or you sent something important to soul via your mass soul charging. That takes us to 4 copies of Repelled Malice Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 0 souls, K base, continues Sentinel to 4 Sentinels and deck, and also put on guard circle, choose on units and cannot be hit to the battle if it has 2 more cards in it. Choose a card from hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing to special about it. Basically, that means if this is one of the cards in your hand with on guard circle, you don't have to discard. It's great because that means you be as aggressive in the early game. Spam the ever living hell out of all 3 of these, and then your opponent does eventually counterattack you when you're low on hand cards. PG, middle finger, you're good to go. All around, I love Repelled Malice Dragon a lot. You can use Reskill Hate Dragon or Ridicule Disruptor because the exact same skill as Repelled Malice Dragon. I choose to run Repelled Malice Dragon because it came out close to the time of the original Grifflegila's release, and since this deck is just an upgraded version of that Grifflegila in some way, I might as well just run the same PG as well. So 4 copies of Repelled Malice. That takes us to our grade 2s. We run 4 copies of Dragon Tree Wretch Skull Kemda. Grade 2 Intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto and place on rear guard circle by counterblasting 1 and soul blasting 1. You can choose one of your rear guard circles without any Dragon Tree markers on it and put a Dragon Tree marker on that circle, and then you get to search your deck for 1 Masque of Hydragrum, put it to your hand and shuffle the deck. All around, it's solid. It eats into the CB a little bit and into the soul, but you don't have to worry about that since Brainwash and Spooky exist, and it does get you a marker, and it can possibly even get you a Masque of Hydragrum as well, which is one of my favorite combos in this deck because you want to have 5 markers on board on your first grade 3 turn so Sephirogila can get triple drive, and sometimes you only have 1 marker on your board at the start of the turn, and Sephirogila only gives you 1 marker. Sometimes you'll have to gamble on Sephirogila's skill and put a marker on a circle that doesn't already have a marker on it, and then hope you hit something like Skull Kemda, who will then get you another marker. If you're not keeping track, that's 4 markers on board, and who can then get you a Masque of Hydragrum, which has the possibility of either searching the top 5 for a Skull Kemda or a Demon Sherider, which would be your 5th marker. And most of the time that play does actually work out, by the way. So 4 copies of Skull Kemda, it's a way that can get you your 5 markers on board, which is helpful, and it also allows you to search your deck for an order that allows you to search for 20 out of your 50 cards in your deck. So yeah, 4 of Dragon Tree Wretch Skull Kemda, just a good card all around for consistency. And that takes us over to Clean Sweep Dragon. Grade 2 Intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Okay, typically I hate cards that require a Persona Ride, but I really love this one because if you do pull it off, it's just really hard to get back from. And that is act rear guard once per turn. If you Persona of this turn, simply put Counterblast 1. Just 1 Counterblast, and then you choose up to a total of 3 rear guards between you and your opponent, and you and your opponent put them into the respective souls. So you can pick 2 cards on your side, 1 card on your opponent's side. You could pick 3 cards from your side, 3 cards from your opponent's side. Doesn't matter. This unit gets plus 5,000 power for each card chosen with this effect. What that means is, say for example, your opponent has 3 tokens. That means those tokens won't go to soul because they will disappear the second they go anywhere but the field. Well, those tokens, while they may just evaporate on chosen, they still count as chosen, meaning clean sweep will get plus 15 for a grand total of 25. Pretty much, I use clean sweep just to wipe out my opponent's board. If your opponent is like messing with your rear guards, you can move the rear guards that they mess with into your soul and still gain like benefit out of that. But most of the time, I just use it to mess with my opponent's board, so they have to not only commit cards from hand to guard this turn, but they also have to commit cards next turn to rear guards to make up for the units that they just lost. Alright, I love clean sweep a lot. It gets rid of the opponent's resources. It also increases your resources, and he gets pretty much just a free 15k out of it. So yeah, 4 copies of clean sweep, just very good grade 2 for numbers, and I used to hate him, and now I love him because God, when he goes off, he's fun. That takes us over to 3 copies of Masque of Hydragrum. It's our grade 3 normal order. The second skill we cannot use, but the second skill is Act Drop Zone. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 without Masque in the card name, reveal a grade 3 card with Masque in the card name from your hand, write the reveal card as stand, and if you roll, put this card into your soul, and the opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, and you do not Persona Ride yet, you can Persona Ride, but that ability will never come to fruition because A, this deck does not run grade 3s with Masque, and B, you will never be on a grade 3 without Masque in the card name to begin with, so we never have to focus on that skill. The skill we can focus on is the first ability. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, just to 1 unit card with Dragon Tree or Masque in its card name from among them, reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle the deck. So that is a free top 5 search for 20 cards out of your deck. That's great because it can search for Skullkemda, it can search for Demon Charioteer, and it can search for Sephirogila. All around, that's pretty helpful because it can search for any one of like your 3 most important units. It either gets you a marker maker or it gets you a Persona Ride. So obviously you're going to run 3 copies of this because it's searchable via something like Skullkemda. And if you end up sending it to Drop Zone via like a PG, that's fine because ultimately you do want it in Drop Zone for Sephirogila's ability anyways. Speaking of Sephirogila, that takes us over to our last card in the deck, which is 4 copies of Dragon Tree of Advent Sephirogila. Grade 10, Twin Drive, Persona Ride, 13k base. I'm both disappointed and not disappointed that Seph is a nationless card. It makes sense he would be nationless, but no one can tell me for a second that they didn't at least believe for a split second that Seph had the potential to be a Stoic K unit because of his entire background, but I digress. His skills are contains Vanguard and in deck. This unit is also regarded as a Sephirogila unit, and if it's on the Vanguard circle, you can only write cards with Sephirogila in their card names. So every card that requires Sephirogila, corrosive smoke signals, it would still proc for that, but you can only write to Sephirogila. So you can't try to use Vartex and cheat out an overtrigger. You can't use OG Sephirogila if you want extra crit pressure. You're stuck on Sephirogila. As for the second skill and the third skill, the second skill is Act Vanguard once per turn, Energy Blast 3. Okay, so you get that every single turn. Choose one of your rearguard circles, regardless if it has a marker on or not, and put a Dragon Tree marker on it. Then check the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 unit card from on the call to rearguard circle, and shuffle the deck. The thing I love about this is, again, you get 3 free energy every turn, so you just spend that 3 to make a marker on any circle you want, whether it has a marker on it already or it doesn't. And then you also get a free rearguard from the top 5, which again can translate into either a Skullkemda or Demon Charioteer, who can then get you another marker, and then transition perfectly into Sephirogila's third skill, which is Act Vanguard once per turn by binding either a Dragon Tree card or a Masque of Hydragrum from your hand or Drop Zone. So it can be himself, it can be Masque of Hydragrum, or it can be either of our 2 Dragon Tree wretches. And for every single rearguard circle with a Dragon Tree marker on it, not for every marker on a circle. Basically, that means if there are 5 markers on your circles, if all your circles have a marker on it, you would do the skill for a total of 5 times technically. But if, like, say for example, all 5 of your markers were on one circle for some reason, then you would only do it for that one circle, not for every individual marker. But anyways, for each rearguard circle with your marker on it, energy charge 1. So again, if you have 5 circles, you energy charge 5, and he'll get plus 5,000 power for each one. So basically, if you have 5 rearguard circles with markers on them, plus 25,000 of Vanguard, so he's a 38k, plus 5 energy. And then if there are 5 more rearguard circles with Dragon Tree markers on them, this unit gets plus 1 drive. All around pretty solid because again, he increases his energy by 5 times in total. I mean, most of the time is going to be 5. If you really brick and you don't see any marker makers, you're just going to get 1 from Sephiro Seed and you'll get 1 from Sephirogila, so you'll at least get 2 and plus 10. But most times you'll be able to get the free 5 energy, you'll be able to get the plus 25 to Vanguard, and you'll be able to get a triple drive. And the best part is none of his abilities require the opponent to be at grade 3, meaning you can consistently swing at your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard who has a 10k base with a 38k, possibly with an 18k booster, so a 56k triple drive Vanguard with God knows what else supporting on the side columns. So yeah, Sephirogila hits for numbers, really good with overall board presence because it gets you a rearguard and it gets you a marker for a cost that is literally given to you every single turn for free. Not to mention the fact that as long as you get one Dragon Tree card or Masque of Hydragrum card into the drop zone, automatically you got a free 5 energy, plus 25,000 power, and +1 drive to the Vanguard. And because it's specifically +1 drive, it bypasses the triple drive order. So it's a lovely card to have in the deck as a 4 of, especially during Persona turns, because using that in combination with Clean Sweep, oh, you are swinging for some numbers that turn. And then of course we have our Dragon Tree markers. During your turn, if your Vanguard is either a Dragon Tree or a Mask unit, all your units on the circle that this card is on get 5,000 power, and that ability does stack. So if you have 2 on the same circle, that unit will get plus 10k, 3 on the same circle plus 15k, etc. And if you're wondering if you can use your original Dragon Tree markers with this, you can use your original Dragon Tree markers. I just choose to use this one because it fits the Sephirogila's new aesthetic, but again, the old ones work just as well in tandem with it. And without further ado, that's it for this tech profile. I hope all of you enjoyed. I love playing this deck. It's really fun to just get a bunch of soul charging done, combo really great with Brainwash Swirler and Spooky Chirpy, having like 18k boosters on the board, or having like one 23k booster and 2 18k boosters, having a Vanguard that is constantly swinging for triple drive and high in the 30s without a single booster, and having a very fun card to play on Persona turns just makes this deck really great to play. And I definitely recommend you try it out if you're interested in using Sephirogila. So without further ado, I'm going to end this one here. I hope all of you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us on Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to set up your Vanguards.